guys, so my name's Elizabeth and I'm currently in basic training. I'm on holiday block leave right now with the rest of my company, and we're spread out all over the United States. So I kind of wanted to address some, I don't know, I guess positive and negative information floating around on the internet about basic training and MEPS. I'm currently an OCS candidate as well, so my MOS right now is 09 Sierra, which is like your temporary MOS if you're going to be in basic training before you go to OCS. So I think in this first video what I'm going to do, I wrote down a list of things to go over with you guys because there's just so much information and everyone experiences things differently in the military. So this is going to be a lot of my personal experience, but then also information as far as like what you need to do for going into the military. I am enlisted right now, kind of. I went in as a specialist, which is an E4 because I finished college, but then once I graduate OCS, I will be an officer. I will have my commission and I will no longer be enlisted. So it's kind of like half and half for these next two videos I'm about to do. I'm going to break it up so it's a little bit easier. So the first thing I want to go over is the OCS application. If you're just straight up enlisting, this isn't going to apply to you at all. But then I'm also going to talk about MEPS, which applies to everyone, so you can skip through to the MEPS part if you're interested in that. But firstly, the OCS application, or what they like to call your OCS packet, it was pretty tedious. It took me at least, I want to say 2 months to complete this packet because there was so much information that my recruiter had to combine. So the first thing you're going to have to do as an OCS applicant is take the Asvab. Different branches require you to take different exams if you're going in as an officer, but for the Army specifically, which I am in and I'm also active, they require all their officers to take the Asvab. With that being said, you have to score at least a 110 on the Asvab to qualify for OCS, to even submit your OCS packet. So I took the Asvab, but I took the untimed version. There's actually two versions you can take now. The Asvab, the traditional one, is timed. I forget the name of the other one, but the other version is not timed, and you can ask your recruiter about that. I didn't hear about that option until I sat down with my own recruiter. So I got really excited for that because I suck at testing, and I'm also awful at math. So don't be afraid if you're really bad at one subject. All you need to do is just study like you're studying for a regular test at school, and you should be fine. I studied the math section. I got on Khan Academy a lot, and that really helped me. Of course, I didn't pay for it. I did the free version because we're broke, so that always helps if you're studying math or science or anything like that. And I studied that for about a month or two before I took the Asvab because I just really wanted to be sure. And I passed it the first time I took it. So it just depends on how you test. You can do the Asvab timed version if you just want to get it out of the way and you don't care if it's timed and that doesn't bother you. That's cool too. I took the test at my recruiting station. I got recruited out of Clarksville, Tennessee. So they're awesome there. They really helped me through the whole process, and they're really great people to work with. I will say that. So for Clarksville, they give you get your score for the Asvab that day. It's generated that day. You don't have to go home and wait a week or two for the Army and torture yourself to figure out your score. So that's a plus. They'll tell you right there in the recruiting office when you're done. And the next thing is you have to have your diploma, your high school diploma if you're just then leaving high school, and then your college diploma as well. And then I had my, what is it called? with all my classes.
Transcript?
My transcript. Yeah, what? I have my transcript as well. But you have to have both from college. So, and they scan that in. They scan in your social security card, your driver's license if you have one of those. And then you'll fill out like a security packet, I guess, and you have to go through and fill out your relatives, their addresses, anywhere you've worked in the past, I can't remember how many years, everywhere you've lived in the past couple of years, and then like references of people who can verify that that's true, and they'll scan that in as well, and I think that's for your security clearance. So that is first and foremost, you need to get that thing done too. The other thing that I had to do specifically for my OCS packet is the like headshot or the professional body shot. So they want you to be in like professional attire when you take this picture. It's basically just for the board to have a picture of you to refer to, so they know who they're going to be speaking with that day at the board. And you might as well, if you don't have, I didn't have a whole lot of business attire, even coming out of college I didn't, so I just went and I bought a suit, and then I wore that to the OCS board meeting. Now, the board meeting was probably the most intense. I guess it's like a job, I mean it is a job interview, right? This is your career, so you can think of it in terms like that, but it's really intense. At least for me it was, and I've done a million job interviews before in the civilian world throughout school, so but it was still very different. I went into a room, and well, we went to Nashville, so it wasn't in Clarksville, we had to drive, and I went into a room and there was 3 individuals sitting there. For security purposes, I don't want to say who or what ranks they were. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that. So they were higher ranking officials, and there were 3 of them, and then it was just me up against a wall sitting in a chair, and they were firing questions at me, and they're just pretty much judging, of course, how you answer the questions, but also how you conduct yourself in a stressful situation. It's an intimidation factor as well, because they're higher ranking officials and you don't want to look like an idiot. So I definitely asked my recruiter for a list of general questions that they might ask me for the board, and she printed that out for me, and I studied those before I went. I studied those for like a week or 2. It's nothing, the questions aren't crazy, it's nothing weird, it's just pretty much asking your opinion on several different things regarding yourself, your professionalism, and possibly the military, as far as like what you do know as a civilian at the time. The next thing, oh, and they tell you, so when you're done with the board meeting, they kind of like have this a couple minutes to like discuss in private. You'll leave the room and then you'll be asked to come back in, and they'll tell you whether they refer you for OCS or not that day, so you don't have to wait for that either, which is nice. A couple of like pointers: don't wear, if you're a female, don't wear a lot of makeup. I would highly suggest wearing your hair back as if you would if you're in the military, so like in a tight bun. I think I just wore mine in a ponytail, like a low ponytail, and it was fine. But they just want to, like, I guess, get a general sense of how you would conduct yourself in the military. Don't wear really high heels. Wear flats if you can. And for guys, and I guess for males and females, if you're wearing a blazer or a jacket, always step into the room with it buttoned. And then once you sit down, you need to unbutton it. And that's just professionalism. You just need to do that, because I think a couple of people have been called out for not doing that. And it doesn't look good, especially for OCS, because you're supposed to be a leader, etc. And then the next thing that you're going to do is a PT test. Well, actually you do the PT test before the board, because it's part of your packet that you're going to submit before you sit for the board. But your PT test is just push-ups, sit-ups, and running. It's a 2-mile run, 2 minutes of push-ups and 2 minutes of sit-ups, and I'm trying to remember. That wasn't too hard. You need to prepare for that too, just like you would prepare yourself for the Asvab, like that kind of exam. You need to prepare yourself for a physical exam too. So you need to start running. Try and run without music. That's torture for me, and that's something that I'm still working on in basic training. I'm having a really hard time running without music and my own running shoes that I ran with at home. But try and prepare that way with no music. Get used to the PT drills. You can just look them up on YouTube. They're really easy to find. It's like, what is it called?
Conditioning drill.
Like conditioning drill 1, conditioning drill 2, that kind of stuff. You can just type in Army PT drills and I'm sure they'll pop up. And you just need to practice those. And then also practice standing at, I know this sounds really silly, but you're going to have to do it. Practice standing at attention after each little like workout that you do for your PT drills. And then practice saying, like repeating after the drill sergeant, the steps that they say for a PT. It felt really weird doing that at first as a civilian, because it was just so like military. But you're joining the military, so just get used to doing that. Get used to having a lot of order and structure in everything that you do. Push-ups and sit-ups. Push-ups you need to do, try and start with like 1 minute push-ups constantly. Like don't like stop and like start with doing push-ups for like a minute, and then like a minute straight, and then work yourself up to 2 minutes without stopping as best you can. If you are really struggling to do push-ups in general like I was, I don't even think I could do one correctly when I started practicing. Really work on your form. I'm not going to show you the form on this video because I'm currently injured, and I will get to that in my next video, but you want to do straight like plank position, obviously, and then you want to go 90 degrees with your elbows at least. You can go lower. I would suggest going lower for practice because they're probably going to tell you that you're not going low enough. So, and you're looking straight ahead. You're not looking down at the ground when you're doing them. Try and do that. Don't go to your knees. I love how people say, oh, you can do the girl push-ups, or that's bull. There's no such thing as that. Stay on your feet. Don't go to your knees, and do as many correct form push-ups as you possibly can for a minute. And then there's several like resting positions that are allowed. No, what am I saying? There's not several. There's like 2 correct resting positions that you can do to take a break during your PT test. I would suggest don't do anything at home practicing that you're not allowed to do during a PT test, and I'm sure there are a ton of videos on what's allowed and what's not allowed during a PT test for the Army. Each branch is different on what they allow for their PT test, so keep that in mind too. Okay, so yeah, so after you get your OCS packet submitted, you go to the board, they accept you, you're then going to secure a